Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode. Today, I am blessed with a lovely lady called Karen, who I actually haven't connected with before. And this will be the first time we'll be sitting together and sharing. So it's always nice to connect with people for the first time. I mean, it's good to connect with people that you know and you reminisce and things, but I also like this where we're like jumping in and see what happens. So, welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, it felt lined. I've been feeling into who to bring on the show, and you're friends of friends, and through that we've connected, and I've seen posts and felt your energy, and I felt I feel aligned that Karen's got a lot to offer humanity and people and the work that you do.
Oh, thank you.
And how has your journey been? Yeah, with that, like. I find a lot of us we come to a place where we start to come back to ourselves and start to revisit the things that we had when we were younger.
So much so. When I was little, I was very connected. So I used to sit outside under the feijoa trees and play with my friends, the fairies, and a man named Merlin. And I had no idea who Merlin was. I just used to play with him outside. And my grandmother could see as well. So she knew who I was playing with and talking to. And it wasn't until I was about maybe just before I turned 5, it was one of my aunties said to me, Karen, who are you talking to? And I said, well, it's Merlin. And she was like, no, there's no one there. And so I started then thinking, who am I talking to if no one else can see the fairies or Merlin? And I guess then we moved from where we were living, and I started school, and it's always been there, but I guess I wanted to fit in, so I stopped voicing what I was actually seeing. And then I think I was about 30. I decided that I was going to venture back into that side of things. And I remember sitting on the sofa and talking to spirit and saying out loud, okay, so if I do have this vision, please give me a sign. And I sat with my eyes closed, and these wheels started appearing on my body, these colored lights. And I asked what they were, and they said, well, they're chakras. And I was like, oh, okay. And it wasn't until I started attending meditation class and a lady she started taking us into the chakras, and I was dumbfounded. I was like, I already knew what they were. I'd been shown. So I do have sight. It's true. Yeah. So,
Amazing. That's quite
yeah.
amazing. I mean, it's beautiful how strong it was for you as a young child and having your grandma there to know. And did you communicate much with her like through that? Because she said she knew that you were who you were talking with.
Yeah, we did. She passed away when I was 5, though.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I really didn't. Oh, my grandfather's a healer as well, so he would talk to me about what I could see as I got older. It was like our special connection because no one else could see. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And when you're a teenager, and you wanted to fit in, you could still see them then and communicate, but you just said, okay, I'm just not going to do this.
Yeah, I actually, what happened was I had a vision that there was going to be a car accident. And to be completely honest, I was in a very dark space at 16 years old. And I actually thought that I was going to be taken home with the accident. That didn't happen. Someone else passed away. So at that point, in my mind, I thought that I wasn't worthy enough to be taken home. And I said out loud, I don't want to see anymore. I'm going to block my vision out. And well, I couldn't because it was still there, but I would choose to ignore it. So, yeah.
Wow, so that's amazing. So they keep communicating with you, but you're just like, no, I'm not gonna put my attention to that, and I'm living here in my earth body and in this whole craziness, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And you know what? It was so amazing when I started to connect back in, because it was like, oh, it feels like I'm living again. This is the joy and the excitement I felt as a child. This is how it should be.
Yes, yeah, I can resonate with that. I had a friend as well that I spoke to. He was called Teddy, actually. And I actually don't know who Teddy was. Actually, I've never really connected with him again. I knew it was a man, and I played a lot of games with him, and he was really important for me with what I was needing to deal with and things. Um, and I'm sure I'd mentioned him to my mum, but I have asked my mum in recent years, do you remember me talking about Teddy? And she said, no, I don't. I don't recall that at all. Um, but I don't remember ever having anyone say who you're talking to or yours that doesn't exist. I don't recall that. So maybe I didn't mention it to anyone and it was just in our own wee space. I'm not
Yeah.
sure actually. Yeah. But
Did you?
it's important to have these beings with us, eh?
Definitely. And did you have anyone around you that you could talk to about it yourself?
Not at
No.
all. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think my sister closest to me, we didn't actually get along really. I mean, we're okay, but um, I didn't really like her. She moaned a lot, so I had this thing about her. Every small thing was a huge thing, and that kind of thing. But she had a spiritual aspect to her where I'm sitting now, and I can reflect back. And then my brother's wife as well had some degree of it. Um, but even now, I'll talk with her, and she'll go, "Oh, I've got a clairvoyant friend," and then that's it. It's like end conversation.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, around family dynamic, I think my nana actually, who I absolutely loved, and she was a real character. She smoked and drank sherry and all that, but she was lovely. She was such a lovely lady, and I loved staying with her. And it was like in the country, and it was always really magical. There was like this ground vine out the front, and you could actually crawl under there and play under there, and it was like you were somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah, and then she taught me how to play cards when I was real young, and let me drink coffee, and I remember that was pretty cool as well. So now so around 30, you got back on that journey, and from there, how's it been for you? Like, have you being really clear with what it is you're working with, or that's shifted in certain areas? And yeah,
Yeah, it has shifted in a lot of areas. So I first stepped into doing Reiki healing. And I did levels 1, 2, and 3, and wanted to do my master's so that I could teach other people. But for me, because I am a real feeling person, so I've got to feel if it feels aligned. And I couldn't align with anyone at the time that was doing the master's. And then one of my friends went to England, and I had actually taken myself out to a spot I go to meditate a lot, because it's overlooking the ocean and it's on farmland. and I had closed my eyes, and Kuan Yin had appeared in front of me. And I opened my eyes and she was still there. So I shut them again and I asked her, I said, thank you for being here. What is your message? And nothing came through. So I closed my eyes again, and then there was a 6-pointed star. And I opened them and it was still there. And I thought, okay, I'm very grateful for these messages. I'm not hearing anything, so I know that I'll get the answers soon. And I got back to my car, and on my phone was an email from my friend in England saying, I've just learnt this new therapy and they keep calling your name. So when I come home, you can feel the energy of it. And to be completely honest, at the time I was like, oh, another modality? Do I really need this? But I got to her house and I looked on her wall, and there was Kuan Yin and there was a 6-pointed star. Mm-hmm. And so the modality is called Rahani, and it's very similar to Reiki. It's working, so it works with Melchizedek as the masculine aspect, and then Kuan Yin as the feminine. And it's also working with planetary energy, so Sirius, the Pleiades, and it's about bringing the masculine and the feminine into balance through the heart. So yeah, I started holding space for Rahani clients, but I observed in myself also when I'd had healings, because I'm a bit of a detective. I like finding out more. I like exploring why and how. And so I put it out there that there was something that I would like to do to help my clients, give them tools to go away with so that they could keep the healing going and keep exploring and keep questioning. And I ended up going to England to do a women's empowerment coaching diploma, because it was all about burnout and how to be in feminine power, but also be in flow and not have to push all the time. And so, yeah, so then I brought my coaching aspect in, but again, something felt like it was missing, because what I was observing in my clients and myself was that they would follow the process for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then they would slip backwards. And so I sat there asking, and I heard clearly there's a big trauma piece in here. The trauma's not being cleared. That's why we can do something for a couple of weeks, but then our body remembers and it'll go and go back to where it felt safe. Mm-hmm. And that is when I met my incredible coach and mentor, Corey Taylor, who is all about in and through the body and working with the bones, and releasing trauma from our bones to break the cycles.
Awesome.
And yeah, so it's incredible, and I use that in my coaching all the time now.
Very important part of it, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
And it's good how you talk about how the body feels safe, because that's that whole, I know myself here, even if I am aware of I have this thing and I want to move beyond it, there's still a safety and security within having it and staying with it, isn't there? So it's super important to be able to work through that.
Yeah, what I've observed in myself also is your mind can't trick your body into feeling safe. So many times my mind has been like, come on, Karen, you should be able to do this. Just step forward. And then my body's in freeze mode. So Yeah, and I really observe that in my clients as well. So once you can clear the trauma in the body, then it's like you're fully aligned. Everything's ready to move and go forward.
Yeah, and I feel what you're sharing there is that body intelligence, isn't it? It's like I feel our body knows everything what it needs, and it's constantly communicating with us, and our mind can't even comprehend, yeah, hardly any of it. So it's impossible for the mind to take the lead in those kind of places when we're working on those deep traumas for sure. So what's a common kind of thing you come across, do you find, or does that change as years go by and yeah,
Yeah,
energies
it's really
change?
it's interesting. For the last 2 weeks, I've been. It's like a theme runs through. It's almost like whatever's happening out there, all my clients will be going through it. And the last 2 weeks has actually been really diving deep into the inner child and the wounds of the inner child or the needs that haven't been met. And when we can go back and tell that little person she's actually safe and we've got her, then again, our whole body can move forward.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That's
And do you feel like you're saying that's the collective? Do you feel also yourself is quite similar to things happening for you, and then the clients come along with the same kind of thing?
definitely, yeah, there's always a common thread. And I really believe this is why this work is so profound and so important, because it's this beautiful give and receive. I'm holding space, yet I'm still receiving. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I guess you're also always learning as you work with clients as well.
Yeah, always learning. And I love it. Like I said, I'm a detective, so it feeds me.
And so what are your tools? Like you've mentioned some of your therapies. Is there other ones that you work with and that you have a kind of like an array of different therapies that you jump into, and do you have a certain person arrive and go, okay, which tool am I working with for this person? You know, which therapy do they need?
And that's where my connection to source comes in really well, because um, I'll have a list of clients I've got for the day. So I will sit there and prepare myself before my day, and I'll tap in and ask permission to go into their energy field and ask what is right for them. And then it can be, because I am a massage therapist, so I do Rahani healing and Kanika Code therapy, which is the bone release. And I also do a selenite crystal healing and work with essential oils. So sometimes one client will get all of those. It'll be, what's aligned for them. So yeah, I feel very blessed in the fact that I can sit there in the morning and ask spirit to, and the person's higher self, what is going to serve them the best for their session today.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's a beautiful way to work. Can you go a little bit more into the bones, working with the bones? Because I think that's not that well known. I know Heidi does it as well, our dear sister.
She
Um,
does. Yeah, so Kanika Code therapy is, so the bones are the sacred scrolls. They're our wisdom keepers, and they store any bit of trauma as there be a snippet in the bone. So I love it so much because we as practitioners, yes, we're holding the space and we're holding the bone for the client, but we're actually taking them into their body. So it's their body speaking to them. And then from there, we know which bones to hold that have held on to that pressure, to that story. And we put pressure on those bones, but we also use the breath. So it's a somatic therapy release as well. And what that does is it'll often unravel the story so that then you can reprogram a new way of being. So you're getting the mind on board as well. It's the body first and then the mind.
Mm.
And
So
for me, it's been incredible because I had post-traumatic stress from narcissistic abuse, and it's completely gone. It's totally changed my life. It's changed my world.
wow. So that's
Yeah.
through reprogramming.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's because it's interesting because like, yeah, there's other ways of like creating new timelines, I've worked with going back into past lives and seeing there's a choice that created a certain situation and experience, and then going back to that one and clearing that, and then going through the lives where you had that lesson and it all just changes, and then you come to this life and you relate to that situation very differently because you see it from a different place, and then you also have this, oh, and I know I don't have to ever have that experience again.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happens with Kanika also. Often, well, not often, but sometimes it will actually be a trauma we've brought into this life from a past life. But how amazing is it that we can clear it now?
Yeah, well, it is amazing, and it just shows that I feel it's kind of like we're on one stream of consciousness, that, and we can just go into any part of that from this moment, and that's where the power is. If we just look at life in general and we simplify it and we bring ourselves back to this present moment where everything is just existing, and that vastness, which is like I often describe it as empty. It just feels so empty, but as everything's in there in that emptiness. So it's
Yeah.
all accessible.
The void, the birthing space.
Yes. Yeah. And do you work on future timelines with that as well, or not so much?
Yes, we can do. Yeah, definitely. There's 8 spheres of Kanika that we work with. So it's matter, the mother, so Gaia, spirit, the masculine, the feminine, the past and the future. So yeah. And
And
what
do
it
you
does also is work. So each sphere will hold a resonance in the body as well, like in an organ.
Hmm. So like each organ holds a stronger sphere of each part, maybe
Yes.
more than any. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite fascinating. Wow. So when you work on that organ, you work on that sphere as well, or vice versa, the way
Yeah.
around.
It's really there'll be telltale signs with the wording of what someone's saying, or you it's like the way Corey describes it, and I've seen it myself. If you watch an injured animal, they'll stand up straight because they know that if you see they're injured, that they won't be here anymore. And it's really interesting observing people when they're talking to you as well, because you get to observe how they're holding their body and what parts they're really not conscious of that they're hiding. So yeah, and when we get them to go into their body and find that part, sometimes they're absolutely blown away that that trauma was in there, and they remember it, but it hasn't been in their mind at all. So
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, in my 30s, I was diagnosed with a rare muscular dystrophy, and as much as I don't buy into the whole diagnosis and all that, there's been a difference in my body, and I didn't know, but for quite a long time, I would turn my hips, I'd rotate my body so my right side, my stronger side, was more forward, and that's how I would greet people.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Look, yeah, totally unaware of it. Actually, I can't even remember. Maybe it was through doing qigong again or something. Um, that came into my awareness. I can't actually, yeah, I can't remember now. But it was really strong. I need to do a lot of work with the hips because they had just learned to be in that position.
Yeah, I'm hearing you on that also because the car accident I was in when I was 16. So my left hip had frozen, and so but there was pain in my right hip, and that was because the right hip was taking all was taking the brunt of everything because the left hip wouldn't move at all.
Mm.
And so to unfreeze the feminine side, so the masculine side wasn't holding the load. Yeah, it was incredible, and it did take a lot of work to unravel. And my leg had to actually be reprogrammed again to move the left leg without pulling on the right leg. It was so interesting.
And how was that experience going through that?
Through bringing my sacrum back into balance.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, it
it's
was
an
really
important area.
incredible. Incredible because of course our sacrum's all about our survival and our safety. And in the car accident, obviously I wasn't safe, and my seatbelt had actually broke. So the thing that was supposed to keep me safe hadn't. And it's been really interesting to work with Kanika and work on the sacrum with that, and realize and see the actual picture that me, myself, as a female, hasn't, I haven't felt safe. And I have frozen in certain aspects of my life. And so to unravel it and to heal it and to now have it back in balance, I've seen an incredible change in myself and how I'm standing taller and stronger, and I'm not afraid to voice or give myself a voice anymore. So yeah, it's been really incredible.
Mm, yeah, beautiful. It's amazing now, like what's held in the body and the root of where it comes from. It's quite a journey, isn't it, that we're all on.
Yeah, as it is true. I don't know if you've ever read that book, The Body Keeps the Score, but it certainly does.
I haven't heard that one. The body keeps the score. I've looked at the secret language of your body, and yeah, Louise Hay as well a little bit, and there's another one as well. I can't remember, but they're great. They're like amazing what they share, and like with the muscular dystrophy, what that shares about, being a small boy and trying to be not feeling like you can express yourself, and I just look at my life and go, yeah, 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 okay, yeah, look, will make sense. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. So how was the journey for you?
Um, I mean, it was an interesting one because I was super sporty. Like, yeah, I played rep sports and all sorts of sports, and I had a feeling something was in my body when I was about 25 or something. And I just went, oh, if I give that energy, it's going to get worse. So I'm just not going to give it any energy, and I'm just going to carry on doing what I do. And I did. And basketball was something I played a lot of. And I had difficulty with the layup, which is just, putting your arm up. It's the easiest shot you can do. And I had real difficulty with it. I could just do a shot from anywhere, but that one I seemed to have struggle with. And then when the Dripshy came on board, because I wasn't really conscious, I just was living an everyday life, and I came to a place where I was actually really, yeah, I was really lost and hurt and angry, and gave up on myself and life and everything, and then went into a lot of drugs. And that's when I didn't have the willpower to continue on, and it's like I had to submit to it. And then I had to go and seek for help. So I went through the medical system, and instantly it just went, you know. But there was still something in me that said, "Yeah, I'm not saying yes to this totally." Like, it's the diagnosis is putting me in a wheelchair, and yeah, that's not happening. I'm not going on that journey. So there was some aspect of knowing, but it seemed like I had to explore it. And I've had an interesting journey with it. Like, I felt for quite a while, this was kind of part of my expression, and to see that you can just still be super active, because I love working with my hands. I do building, joinery, handyman stuff. I'm very capable. I can play sports still. Yeah, I pretty much can do anything. I'm very restricted in my movement, even in my right side.
Yeah.
So, but I still do yoga, and I find a way of moving my body and things like that. So I had a journey where, okay, this is how it is for me. This is part of what I'm here to share, that you can have these things and still live a very everyday life, like anyone else, and be very active. And so I found that kind of held me in that place. Yeah. And then along my journey, it started to come in that it can be healed, it can be changed. So I've been morphing in and out of that. And I don't feel I've ever really committed to, okay, I'm really gonna put a lot of energy into this, and bring it into more balance and harmony. And maybe it's, yeah, there's something deeper that I'm not prepared or feel I'm ready to look into, even though I've done a lot of deep work, and, I've done a lot of trauma release in all sorts of areas, and especially around all different types of abuse. And but yeah, maybe there's something there. And I also know I'm very good at shifting my energy into a direction and being very clear in that direction. So it's kind of like I can feel really good about myself and do what I want by just holding that intention,
Yeah.
which can nice. It's like a gift, but it also doesn't necessarily support me when you really could do with looking deeper at something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've observed that in myself with other things as well. Yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it? You sometimes, when you talk about looking deeper, I think it's because we know, because we've gone really deep and we go, oh, what can of worms am I going to open up if I do go deeper? Because just before our Kanika teachers training retreat, we were doing Kanika on each other, and I was being the practitioner. And I had a pain in my shoulder, and the lady that held the space was so amazing, because what came forward was my 10-year-old, and she was actually frozen. So all I could do was just sit with her and be with her, and some release work was done on my heart and my shoulder, but it unraveled over the next couple of weeks. And then I could see why she had frozen, because she was bullied for 2 years at school. And then it all unraveled about the narcissistic abuse that I had received. And it was incredible. It really did. From finding out that my 10-year-old had been frozen for a long time, and the unraveling of it just brought so much clarity to everything I'd experienced, really.
Mm.
But it was a whole unraveling. It wasn't just a small part. It was diving deep into the shadows. So,
Yes. Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, it's interesting because I have asked certain people about it, and I've often had an answer where healers are like, I don't see anything. Like, what are you talking about? Like this, what? And I found that really fascinating. But listening to your story, yeah, I had from 11, 12, and 13 a lot of bullying, and my best friends, they all jumped on board. I had sometimes 30, 40 people bullying me and getting beaten up and stones thrown to me and I'm tied up by a rope and all sorts of things for on and off a lot of 3 years. And yeah, so but I see all those things as part of my journey, like there's me in there as well. And there's things for me that we have to go into those. And I've done a lot of work around those things, but maybe there is something in there that this is related to, that I haven't explored. I haven't got to yet. I'm not sure because I've found it really interesting when I have gone into, okay, let's look at it and seek help and yeah, I've had like there's nothing there, and then I've gone into other aspects of modalities and looking at things. It's like we choose a bodysuit, so our bodysuit's perfect, however it is, and that's just part of our expression and what we've come to journey with. And so it's like, okay, so it doesn't have to have any trauma. It's actually just the bodysuit, and that's how it is, and so it's quite fascinating, I find. But I do know, and I with it, like my physically, it can get bigger and stronger and weaker within an hour or two of each other, even. Like it can
wow.
grow dramatically within a few hours or sink back. And I don't notice anything emotionally going on for me or in a certain situation or anything. Like I reflect a lot and I observe and yeah, I find that really fascinating.
That is fascinating. Yeah. Yeah.
And I do find when I really let go of what it is, I move very differently as well. So I can do like and well, consciously it's my as far as lifting things, it's my strongest arm. I have seven major muscles that have wastage, severe wastage in them in my upper left side of my body. Well, six, one's on my right side and my shoulder. And when I pick up anything heavy, I always pick it up with my left arm.
Wow.
It's yeah, it's like my strong arm in that way.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah. And again, that's fascinating. I'm not really sure why or what that is, but yeah.
Yeah. And I love what you say, that this is our meat suit. And maybe, like look at what you're showing other people. You still can get out there. You can still do everything that you want to do. It's the mindset and you can either be one way or the other. The choice is yours. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of us. I feel a lot of people don't realize how much choice we have in our journey and where we're putting our energy because we're constantly creating, regardless of whether you have any awareness of it or not. You're constantly creating your life for yourself.
I've caught myself out on that so many times. I'll never forget standing in my friend's kitchen and the thought come to me, oh, I'd so love to live here. It'd be amazing. And do you know what? 3 months later, I was moving in. And I remember thinking, oh, I manifest this. I was standing in the kitchen thinking about Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love those. I love those stories. Yeah, I found even before I had my like first awakening when I had a real shift and started really living consciously. Because I share. I always believe we're always on a conscious journey. We're never even when we're not conscious, but we're always on a conscious journey. but yeah, I was in a place where I wanted to get away from my life, and I didn't know how to change that in myself, or even that was a way of doing it. So I just removed myself from my
Mm.
friends and the environment I was in. So I'd moved town. So I was in Christchurch, and I was like, okay, where do I want to live? Wellington. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, Wellington. I'd like to go and live in Wellington. What kind of job do I want? A picture framing job. Yeah, because that still had some physicality. It was kind of early after the diagnosis, and it let me still be creative and have some kind of physical job, but not in the building industry like I often was. And so I put that there. Yeah, okay. And then in the morning, I got on the internet for the first time ever. I went on Trade Me and looked at jobs. And that night at 11 o'clock night, a lady had put up a picture framing job in Wellington. And so I rang her and she said, yeah, I'll fly you up for an interview and pay for your night's accommodation and that. So that happened. I had an interview. She said, there's one other person I need to interview and then I'll let you know. And then she called me back and said, yeah, I want you to come and work. You've got the job. And while I was there, I actually met a guy who offered me accommodation.
Wow,
And yeah, I just ended up in Wellington as a pitch framer.
that's incredible.
And that's when I didn't even have an awareness that that's how things work, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So
wow.
yeah, it's there for all of us. We're incredible. We have so much potential that and the more like us, we're on this conscious journey and we've been diving into things and bringing things into our life and unraveling and opening up more and more. And I feel we're still not aware of how potent and amazing we are. You know,
I totally agree. And I think that's actually like I live in Pukekohe, so I live in town, but I often send myself away to Coromandel because my spirit, my soul need to be near the ocean and to be near forest and so to be in nature. And I often will just sit there for hours and observe nature and think, gosh, if we could connect more deeply to her, we are part of her. We are her. And look at how everything just ebbs and flows, and there's no force and there's no push. And, if we could just remember to adopt that all the time, how different things would be.
yeah, a beautiful observation that you had. Yeah, totally. I totally agree. It's so diverse. There's no hierarchy or competition. They're all just coexisting and supporting each other. You know, if a plant needs a bit of more moisture, so the other ones will send it over to it or whatever it requires, and that is, like you say, that's our innate nature. That is who we truly are.
Yeah.
And yeah, the more we are in touch with that, the harmony within our world, it would just be incredible.
Exactly. Yeah, I actually started up a membership called Unity, um, because I work with the Venus Rose codes as well. So I will bring through channelings with Mother Mary and Maria Magdalene and working with the Venus Rose. And so I decided to set up a group called Unity to bring women back together in a sacred space so that they could feel safe. There was no judgment. Was no competition. We may all be at different places and different stages, but we all learn from each other. And when we can see that and feel that, it's so powerful.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that is beautiful, and I feel for all of humanity that's really important, and I think as a bloke, there's not so many blokes doing the spiritual path, and there's not so many coming togethers, and I find yeah, when we come together in circle as man and woman, it's profound because if you can get that comfortability within both genders just sitting
Yeah.
together, that's our wholeness, that's us really truly being seen and embracing all aspects of ourselves and each other.
Yeah. It's incredible. And yeah, I often question why there are not more males, on this path, on this journey. And I've had incredible held space for incredible shifts within some male clients that have, I guess, been at desperation point where I was many years ago. Something happens, something traumatic, and then it's like, well, where do I go? And one young man, yeah, he was suffering depression, and he left 3 months later going, I'm actually going to see my doctor to ask if he can help me titrate off the medication, because I've worked with so many of my shadows that were actually creating the depression. And it was really interesting to hear him speak as well about how he was a bit afraid to actually tell his friend group what he'd been doing, because they could all notice the shift, but they weren't on the same wavelength as him. So he was, yeah, he said, at the moment, I'm just, telling them I'm working with someone, but I'm not actually telling them that there's a lot of conscious spiritual work in there as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, which is sad in a way, isn't it, to hear that? Because and I feel that's part of the man, the being a man and being strong and not showing your feelings. And, if you do, that means you're this. And, for someone like him, I kind of feel that feelings of how you feel when you're depressed could come in really quickly when someone goes, well,
Yeah.
at him and things like that. But yeah, I feel like as much as women have had this journey of being suppressed and everything, and there's a lot of healing that needs to happen, and it's super important and it's amazing to see. And the divine feminine is rising and finding the power and all that. That also exists within the male, and it also has been suppressed and cut off, and that needs to come into balance more so, and is to bring in the new earth frequencies and timelines and unions, unions within ourselves, union with one another, and a physical union as well. So I feel it's also important to look at what I feel anyway is that there has been a body of beings on this planet with a certain purpose, and a lot of the male's expression has been manipulated.
Mm.
And so there's not just a male suppressing a female, there's actually him. Yeah, there's something more than that that's going on
Yeah.
in the back scenes that's created that to happen to support the agenda of other beings. And that's just kind of how we've been in this world for many years, and now that's really shifting, and we're seeing that more and more, that people are waking up more, asking more important questions, finding community and support, and you will find more men coming to you nowadays than what you did, 10 years ago, 20 years ago especially.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that as well. And yeah, it's a journey. It's there's so many ways of looking at it all as well. I found when I was younger, I got into a lot of problems with people because I had such awesome conversations with females.
Oh, yeah.
I could just meet someone and start talking with them because I was seen, because I had a feminine aspect in me already there, and I wanted to have conversations that were interesting, not, hierarchy rubbish. I'm or them and I'm better than that. And I played a lot of competitive sports, but it was because I just loved playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, having a wonderful conversation with a lady meant you were sleeping with her, so you had the other side of it.
Yeah. I know that the conditioning and the what's the right word for it? It's the way that the beliefs that are so untrue that actually stop the most beautiful connections.
Yeah, yeah. But that's and I feel that's shifting now. I feel that there will still be a lot of people in that world for sure, and I feel
Mm.
they may just stay in that world, and that's okay. We all have a choice, and those of us who want to ask questions and go deeper and find truly who I truly am. What am I here for? What is this all about? Beautiful questions. Then we see the beauty in the world, and the beauty in the world shows itself to us. And so we don't see that world so much anymore because we've just chosen a different world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Oh, it's a beautiful journey, really. I mean, it's challenging, and there's a lot of suffering and difficulty, but really, it's so special. It's so beautiful, and I feel we're in an amazing, amazing time, and we all have something really important to offer if we choose to say yes to that part of ourselves. And
Yeah.
we're here for a reason now more than ever. Um, and the
And that's
more
what I
lot.
love, Sorry, keep
No,
going.
it's go. No, you're cool.
Yeah,
It's
I
cool.
love having, these conscious conversations. And when there's a group of people all on the same wavelength in the room and you start talking, and it's like you see how each one of you has the puzzle piece to make the whole. And it's just incredible. It makes my heart sing being in groups like that. And yeah, really we're listening to each other and getting curious with things, and all these pieces are dropping in, and then it's like, wow, look at, we're all holding a piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and it is, and you spark something in someone as well as you share. There's a little bit of, and certain people move through things a lot easier than others. So when you're in that circle, when you're sharing those things, that kind of energy can go over and start to pull that out of that person's field, or wake something within them that they're kind of a little bit, oh, it's not quite happening. And this one's like, yeah, yeah, it's totally happening.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it too. Yeah, yeah. And that's part of why this podcast came about as well, because everyone has their unique expression and their coding and their blueprint and however, whatever words you want to use and all that. And the more we do it, the more ripples out, so it invites more of that. And everyone, what I find is you can have exactly the same experience as anyone, but when you share it, it's uniquely shared from you, and it can touch someone in a different way, even if you use the same words in a sentence, or it happened exactly at the same time of your life. And, there's all these steps that happen exactly the same. It's still because you bring all of you with you when you share something. So it can be a
Yeah.
very, very differently received.
Yeah.
Mhm. So if you feel like writing a book, anyone, and you think 20 other people already done it, it's not true. You haven't
Yeah,
written your book.
exactly. I love that. I love that analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is beautiful. So is there anything you would like to share with the audience before we finish up?
No, I don't think so. I can't. I've just really loved our conversation and where it's led us, and our connection. Yeah, it's been really amazing. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome, Karen. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it as well. And I always receive so much, because like we've just shared, we're just interacting and having, it's like we're just hanging out, and this can touch, I don't know who, and it doesn't have to be done in a certain way. That's the thing. It's just showing up as you are and expressing from that place. And thank you for doing that. Yeah, for being that.
Oh, you're most welcome. Yeah, it's cool. It's a catch up, a friends connecting that. Yeah, like we haven't had this conversation before. We haven't met before, so it's been really lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening in. And yeah, take good care and yeah, find a place within you where you can allow yourself to express freely. Um, and may you find your vibe tribe. That's what I say as well as I travel. Wherever I go, there's always my vibe tribe. And just saying that opens up connections with people that you think, oh, it's just someone walking the dog, But yeah, you stop and yeah, some magic can happen. So yeah, take good care and much love, everyone.